Folks, welcome to Campaign for America episode 34. We have special guest Faith Daron with us, and we're going to be discussing topics such as corruption, probate court corruption, and other such issues as they pertain to today's current events with both of our guests. We have Dottie with us as well, my co-host from our other show, and Dennis is with us as well. So let's begin. Let me read the intro disclaimer. The views expressed on this show are expressly the views of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views, beliefs, or opinions of News for Us World, its broadcasters, or affiliates. Remember, folks, always use your own discernment when viewing. We encourage our viewers to think for themselves. All right, welcome, folks. Let me start the intro, and we will go from there, and then I'll let you do some housekeeping, Dennis.
In 1980, Ronald Reagan wore a white suit, a red tie, and a white shirt and addressed the nation. Hi, I am Dennis Andrew Ball, and I am running for President of the United States. I am talking to you right now because the debates that were conducted this week need to have a presidential response. The economic issues that both Barack Obama and Mitt Romney answered created in the minds of many of us unanswered questions of how do you sustain economic growth in the United States of America. In light of the decisions and the events that have happened since 2008, what do we need to do to reduce the deficit, increase job creation, maintain Social Security and Medicare, and provide the opportunity for our children and future generations not only to survive, but to thrive in a global economy. I would like to talk to you quickly on how I perceive what needs to happen. The United States of America at this time is suffering because the means of production have not equaled the ends of production that it requires in order to sustain its middle class. The United States of America must reindustrialize itself to make it possible that 23 million Americans can go back to work in industries that are productive for themselves and their families. What we are witnessing on a daily basis is the demise of the American family, the traditional American family, of children, parents, and grandparents, by people in authority who have used, abused, and misused their positions to hurt our people. This must stop, and it will under my administration. The need at this moment of time is to get our organs of power in business to invest in research and development to make it possible for industry to not only survive in America, but also to thrive. My attitude is that the production capability of the United States is equal to none. Our workers are very productive if given the opportunity, but they must be protected by government that concerns themselves with their best interests. And that has been a problem for many years in this country. My attitude also is that in order for our people to get themselves in a position to care for themselves and their children, we have to evaluate at this moment in time what is important for that to happen. And I believe that it will be more of a decision on the part of the American people when they go to the voting booth to decide who they think is best qualified to do that job. I believe also that we are in a position to make decisions that will impact the course of history and to bring about positive change in the lives of our family structure. I want to say that in order to do that, the means of production will have to be a top priority to reindustrialize the middle class and to provide the support for the future generations. I want to say this, that in terms of how we go about this business, the President of the United States should be very aware of what has happened and what needs to happen. My interest at this time is to educate through my administration of candidacy for presidency to make it possible for you to learn more about me and to decide if you are better off since the election of Barack Obama and the changes that need to happen in terms of the increase in gas prices, in food prices, the mortgage forfeitures that have happened since him, and also what we will do in the future to make it possible for more people to be employed out of 23 million who are not. Consider this opportunity to communicate to your friends and your neighbors my thoughts, and I look forward to hearing from you. I need presidential electors who will vote for me through the Electoral College when I win the states in this country to become your next president. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
I appreciate everything going on here. That video is very personal to me. Everything I said in that video is correct. It's still correct because instead of things improving, they're only getting worse. And I believe all of us understand what that means. Right now, with where we are, we discussed a little bit this afternoon waiting for the show to come on. There's just a lot of things that I believe need to change. We're in the process right now of making that happen. Appreciate everybody's support. And as we move the campaign forward, I believe there will be a whole lot of other things that will materialize from it, and will make it a very good experience. I want to invite Faith Daron today. Faith and I have communicated on many occasions, and issues relevant to her life, the life of her husband, Tim, and the lives of people in certain communities that have had a lot of different problems because of social ills, economic strangulation, which I talked about in this video, and creating a new environment for job creation and success. I mean, there's so many things that need to be addressed. Fortunately, we have books that communicate that in the library on Amazon.com. as well as the AOA-ANC.org website. Hopefully we will have the background in the next show that we do. Not sure what needs to get done there, but that'll be good. And we'll continue to roll. So with that, I want to welcome Faith Daron to the show. Tell us a little bit, Faith, about what's on your mind and what you think needs to change. Did we lose her?
I don't think so. She's still on the call, but I don't think we can hear her.
Really?
Yeah. Faith, are you there? Continue, Dennis, while I get this worked out. I don't know if she can hear us or not.
Okay, well, that's all right. I believe we have Dottie also, or Angie, here on the show as well. Can you say a few words, Angie?
I'm here. How are you guys today?
Well, it's good talking to you. It's been a while since I had a chance to communicate with you. I know you were going through some situations with your family.
Yeah, that passed 2 weeks ago.
Oh, your father died?
Yeah, he passed away. He spent his last 2 months here with me, which was really nice. But you know what? Every time they didn't like something I would do, they would talk about how they would have to come in and take him. You know, like they threatened me quite a bit. Like if they thought I wasn't giving him enough care, or if they just didn't like something, whatever they didn't like, you know, they would threaten me with taking him. So, but he stayed too sharp-minded all the way up till the end. So, you know,
I see.
no taking him. But they did threaten that a lot. And I know that's part of that guardianship stuff where they come in and just take your parents from you. And that's just it. You know, they never get to come back home. They end up passing away alone and isolated. And I wasn't going to let that happen. He was here with me all the way up to the end. So I think they knew they had a fight on their hands.
So, yes, Angie, I can appreciate where you're coming from, because both myself and Faith's parents were kidnapped and murdered.
Yeah.
By adult protective services, the hospitals, the guardianships. It's the same MO. They took all her money and property that did not belong to them, money that did not belong to them. It's all a scam.
Yeah, it is.
And,
you know what I found really interesting is they kept asking him if he wanted to go to the hospice house. Well, everything that was in-home care was paid for. You know, there was no charge, like any extra charges for that. And he has his Social Security check that he would get. So they said if he went into hospice, that his insurance didn't cover it, but they were going to give him this deal, like they were going to give him this discount, that it would just happen to be his whole check a month to live there, because they were giving him this great discount. But with the discount, it totaled up to his monthly check, like two of the dime. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
they were trying to help him out. They were just going to make sure they were going to get that check of his if he went into the hospice house.
Oh, I believe you. I mean, the attitude is trafficking senior citizens for money, and I can appreciate where you're coming from. This is a big problem. I'm going to do something about it. Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, it's waiting for many of these people, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, this is a work of God that I'm involved in here. I want to say that, because you do something like this on this level, you better have a good relationship with the Creator. Otherwise, you're just floundering out here. But see, I'm a man who believes that God works in mysterious ways. And I believe that the things that are important, he brings to light.
So true.
And, and the things that, like you expressed with your father, God respects that. He put it in the 10 Commandments. People who are separated from their parents and their families, God does not like that, because that goes against what he created.
No, I found it to be very honoring that I was there with both my parents, with passed. My brothers weren't, but I was, and I felt it to be honoring that I was there to share that. It's like, I guess bittersweet moment. It's such a sad moment, but it's such an honor at the same time that they've entrusted their last breaths with you, so I was honored to be there with both my parents, actually. And I got to take care of my dad the last 2 months of his life, and I wouldn't trade that up. I mean, he was a handful, don't get me wrong, bless his heart, but I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. Like, I'm appreciative that I had that time with him and that I got those last few months, and just show him love, how much I loved him, appreciated him for being there. He was 83, so I had a good 40 something years with him, so I appreciate it.
Yes. Well, that's beautiful. I appreciate you saying these things. I think it's very important to communicate those things. I will say this, in Orange County, California, they're protesting about the probate abuse going on. They're talking about, we've had it on the show here, where particularly daughters like yourself have come out and they have held signs in the air. They have talked about the abuse that they have encountered for their loved ones, the money that is stolen from their estates. And like you said, they made sure they got paid out of your father's check every month, to the penny, sounds like.
Yeah, that was after their nice friendly discount, I was just like,
Yes,
I can see right through you.
yes, they're friendly discount.
And people to be robbed of that, to be robbed of being able to be with their loved ones at their last moments. I understand things happen and you can't, like my one brother, he just went home when my mom passed. Like that happens, and I understand that. But to be robbed from you, yeah, I could see why God is completely angry about that, because that it goes something along with the legacy of your life. It has something to, it just plays into that and our legacies as humans and what we're here to, what we represent and what we're here to do or what we've done in our lives. And to take that from somebody for a financial gain is horrible.
Yes, it is. It's very negative. I mean, it's criminal. I mean, I've been watching things on YouTube regarding the Nazis during 1920 to 1940. Our country seems to me to be going in the same direction as it was in Nazi Germany, with Hitler going to power and the divisions in the families and taking their money, separating their kids, getting into all these different gender definitions and pronouns and division after division to abuse the American people rather than affirming their rights from the soldiers and military who have died for them, and to provide an opportunity to maintain one's wealth rather than to take one's wealth.
Yeah,
that's really bad. And so I'm going to say this right now, as far as I'm concerned, folks, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba is where these people belong, and they will under my administration, because it's time. We cannot support any of this. It has to be changed, and we have to change it, we the people. So I believe we should also be very vigilant and become candidates, run for office, and understand that the family is number one. If you're not fighting for your family, who are you working for? Are you back, Faith?
He's back. We got her back on the line.
I'm back. Yes, I'm sorry, I'm back. I don't know what happened here.
Yeah, me too. We're talking about Dottie's father. He passed away 2 months. Well, she was with him 2 months. I think he recently passed. Is that correct, Dottie?
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And that was interesting. I was talking to her about your mother, my mother, both experiencing very poor support toward the end of their lives and separation from them, and then their money and property being separated from them as well, to our detriment.
Well, may I interject?
Yeah, please do.
Bennett,
We want to hear.
Can I be here? Okay, I'm sorry what happened. Somehow we got disconnected. But I would like to, I'm sorry to hear about what happened with you, Dottie. My condolences. And this didn't just happen with my mother. It happened with my father. It happened with my husband's mother. It happened with many other people years ago. It happened with my friend when I first got involved, and they took his mother out of the house, DCF, and I'm being careful what I say. And I had to help fight to get her back. That's a whole story. But it is an epidemic where people are being taken out of their homes because somebody awards guardianship. Somebody decides, oh, well, we need someone from the courts to take over because they're not getting good care from their family members, which a lot of times is very false. And then they put them in these horrendous places and leave them there to rot.
Yes.
Hello?
For financial gain,
Well,
and it's terrible. That's
We can hear you.
Oh, yes, it's the financial gain. Exactly, Dottie. It's this financial gain that they're after. We are just a number in many areas of our complexities of the world, and we're just a number, basically. It goes with.
I don't know
Go
much
ahead.
about so much about the elderly end as much as I do about the end with our children, where they're taking our children and stuff. And I know they have all these incentives with the Title IV, D, and E and all that. What are the incentives for the elderly? I know there's got to be some there.
Well, the incentives for the elderly is they have I'll give you an example with my friend Glenn, not getting into what on my path. This is the simplest way to put it. His mother worked for the medical industry. She worked at Duke University. She was in Jackson Memorial. She had lots of stocks. She had a paid for home. Her son took care of her to be a good son. He stayed with her. And the incentive was, by the time they took her out of the house at midnight, shining flashlights on my friend's face, saying, oh, you're not taking care of your mother, which was not true, because I knew him very well, and I would go over and bring them food, and even my parents at that time. And they went through everything, and they couldn't get the house. P.S., they put her in a place where they didn't even have a proper stair lift, the stair lift. It's a disability stair lift. It's called a wheelchair, so you could take them down.
Yeah.
And she fell off while trying to wheel out of her room on her own. Yet she wasn't allowed to be alone, but they put her in this room, and she tried to go down the ramp and fell over and broke her hip. They put her in the hospital. And then when she was good to go, they didn't put her back at the home. Everyone there was drugged up. I went there, excuse me, but that is the truth. When people laying with their mouths open, drooling, that's what else is it? And let her go back home, and the son took care of her till she had a stroke like 3 years later, and banged her head on the nightstand that was the end of her. But by then they cleaned her out. And the same thing I could just tell you is the same story with many people have the same issue. It's very rampant. They want to take people, and they don't believe it. It's not just the children. It's also people, when they get a certain age, they want to take you over, because then they get your assets, they spend through them, they get your whatever assets you have, they get. And they say, and that's what happens with it. And it's devastating. And the family members aren't aware of it, because they could be, just a guardian could be awarded like that, and you're taken out. Someone makes a phone call. It's the same incentive with the children. The children are better off with their parents, unless the parents are like really off the wall. But you're always better with your parents, even if it's supervised. That's how I feel. And and that's it. Bringing them into these foster cares. Why? The foster cares make money off the children per head. Do you think they're going to really love them like a real parent, like two parents who love their children and want to bring them up correctly and just have a good life, good education, food, just love and
Just
God.
share it with each other, basically, just to experience this human experience with the people that love you. That isn't too much to ask, I don't believe. Why we're being criminalized for it is ridiculous. It's a and that's been on for generations. As much as it is generational curses and damage, this has been planned out for generations. These people know exactly what they're doing. They've known a long time. It's pre-planned. It's not just, it just happened. These people this is well planned out. The American
and then when the child turns 18, a lot of times they let them go on the street if they're and they go from foster home to foster home. If they do get adopted, is there an incentive, or is there real true love? Why? I just feel a child being taken from the parent is devastating, and I think they could work with the parents, unless the parents are so far gone that you have no other, and then there won't be an incentive. And do they really check out the people that the children are going with, or that the elderly, the places that they're going into? So many people. An example, in Hallandale, Florida, there was a woman who went looking for her sister. This is the truth. It was in the papers. They finally found her. A year later, she was dead in the bed. They never went into the room for her. These are many cases. I kid you not.
Well,
sounds bizarre.
You just opened my eyes up to the fact that nursing homes are CPS, child foster homes. It's the same difference. And I never thought
the age difference.
Yeah, it's just but we all go back to being babies, right? In a sense.
Yes.
So, it's our weakest links in our society, the children and the elderly, and that's, of course, they're going to attack the children and the elderly. They're the easiest ones. But
right, and it's
the nursing homes being like the foster care system, like that being like situation. They, like everything else, they make you to believe it's something completely different than what it is.
I mean, I'll give you an example. When they put my mother in a home, which was not my decision because I was not in charge, and when she was taken out, I had to go look for her. And when I found her, this woman's intuition, I went in there and I started visiting on several occasions. Well, they didn't even know I was the daughter, because apparently other people with my same color hair were visiting her. I don't know what was really going on. It's intricate. But then I started really going morning, afternoon, early morning, different times. I even wanted to sleep over because you could, and they wouldn't let me. But so I started going different hours, and I found my mother pushed in the corner one time. What did she do wrong? She was walking when she went in there, and by the time she got out and was shoved in hospice with bed sores galore. How I found that is I just ripped the blankets off her one day, and they were when I would come in, kept a watchful eye on me because they didn't want me to ruin their plan, which eventually I did, but to her demise.
Faith, something similar happened to my mother too recently in the last couple of years. She had got injured by the jabby jab, and so she's at this care facility, and they weren't turning her. They were understaffed. I ended up having to call the Department of Health and Human Services just to get them to send her home. And then after that, I made myself medical POA. Here in Nevada, you only need a couple of witnesses or notarized. But because I knew that their next step was going to be to do that.
Well, did she have bed sores? My mother's bed sores were so bad.
Yep.
She had a hole in her buttocks.
My mom too. Oh my God, it was so bad. It's right there on the tailbone. Yep.
Yes, on the tailbone, because they don't turn them. And it was horrendous. And when they brought her into the hospital, they were putting all kind of cream, and I was snapping away with pictures with Dennis has seen. And they asked me if I was a medic or something. And you want to know something? No, I'm not. I have no medical training, but it was a labor of love. So seeing how my mother was suffering, I wanted to save her. So it devastates me till this day to even talk about it.
Yeah.
And my uncle in New York, he had the same thing. He had a big stroke, and they rushed him to the hospital. And then he had another one on the way, and he had an active day that day, just his luck. He got the stroke, and then another one at the hospital. P.S. They drilled in his head, whatever. And then when the money runs out, if you're not a paying bed, you have to be a paying bed, or they clock you. I mean, this is how
at the
I
hospital.
have witnessed it.
Yep. Same out here.
You're not a paying bed. Bye-bye. And so on a winter's day in cold New York, and you know how cold it could be in the north, and all of you from just TV if you haven't been there, they put him out in an ambulance to find another place for him to go in that night, whatever that nightgown they put on you, in the cold, sitting and waiting. I could give you examples. It's horrendous. And what frightens me is a lot of people are not in tune with this, and with the children and anyone who's vulnerable. I mean, what we have going just with homeless, we could go on and on and on. People who are vulnerable, they get it. People who have walked the walk understand it. People who are sitting in an ivory tower and have not yet witnessed it and will someday, or if they have any kind of empathy, compassion, they will be so surprised what is really going on and out there. And I'm sure you've heard Dennis's story. But P.S., the bed sores till this day, and I kept putting reviews on this place. So and then what they do is they keep changing the name. And then they keep changing the name. And when my husband their family wanted to say, well, we'll put Mom in that home. I said, that home's the home that my mother was in. They're no good. Oh, no, they're supposed to be great. They're not great. They just invest in whistles and decorations, making it look all lovely. It's a whole nightmare in being in there.
Yeah, it's all a grift.
Ramble on like
it's
this.
all a grift.
Yeah.
No, it's a grift.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's frightens me, it damages me, and I would never want to be a mother having my child taken away, let alone a pet, let alone any family, and a child. I mean, come on. It's all horrific, but they don't care because it's a dollar sign, and that's what people need to understand. It's a dollar sign. You're a number.
They
We're
have
all
no
numbers.
soul, Faith. I don't think they have any
What?
soul. I believe they have no soul. They have no soul.
Well, if they had a soul, they wouldn't make all that money,
Right.
would they?
How can you steal children from mothers? That's why I left. How can you incarcerate innocent people? I mean, that's what the Nazis did to the Jews. I mean, I'm being candid here. I'm angry. The situation being, there's got to be a change here. They're taking liberty with people's lives they have no right to. Who are they?
No.
You know,
who are they? Someone gives them a little badge, an ID, they pass a little test, and then they run around and they select what mother, they have 2 kids or 4 kids. Oh, they're not doing a good job. Well, if you care about the children, supervise, maybe help out and see what's going on in that family unit. Is it really that bad? It's worse, I would say, in a foster home for what I read and from the people I've talked to. And same with your elderly. The parents took care of you. Like Dottie says, they revert, which my mother's name was Dottie, by the way. That means gift of God. That's what it means, Dorothy, Dottie, gift of God. That's what the name means. And they discard human life like it has no meaning.
Yes, I agree. And this is the look. I'm going to say this. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Faith, but I want to say this. This is important.
Interrupt all you want.
Let me just say this. This is important. I talked to people about this now very much. And I called my congressman today in Washington, D.C., Mike Bost. He's from Illinois. I also contacted Dick Durbin. He's a very well-known senator from Illinois. I called his office. I called Tammy Duckworth. She was a former veteran. She had some injuries. I believe her legs were removed. She were amputated from injuries she suffered in Iraq or Afghanistan. I'm not sure which war she was in. But this is the deal. The deal is this. This is the deal. We are sliding into socialism and communism, where, listen to me well here, the institutions, the corporations, the manufacturing that is done in this country, all the food products, the Walmarts, the Targets, these companies, the airline people, there is such a thing as collectivism, statism. Statism is where the state owns everything, including us. Okay?
Yeah.
That's my fear, that we are headed into a total collapse where the state owns everything and we own nothing. Now, Agenda 21, global governance, would fall right in there. And obviously there is this plan that people in government have created. George Herbert Walker Bush was part of this in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. He talked about 1,000 points of light. I think he was a very deceivious person. I think he had a very checkered past. He might have actually been involved in the assassination of President Kennedy. This,
And we know his father backed the Nazis. Bush
Yes.
Senior's father. Yeah, we know this for a fact.
That's what I heard.
Right. So, you know, you've got that history there, and you've got these people that are pushing for this, like the George Soroses, the Antifa groups. These people are no good. We have people in our own Congress that are communists, that are no good. Okay. To me, let me tell you this. We're way beyond Reformation. As far as I'm concerned, we're into cancellation. And cancellation means taking them out with the military and putting them in Guantanamo Bay for trial. They have committed so many egregious harms to innocent people. There's a lady in Orange County, California, with the other ladies with their signs on the probate abuse saying, we did not ask for this. We did not ask for this. Yet they took their money, their property, and murdered their family.
Yes, they have.
Right.
And they do it in a very special way. And we know what they do. Like on the night I went to see my mother, and this nurse is running around with a needle in her hand, her last stop, my mother's last stop. And she's singing, "You will walk again." I'm looking at this woman, "You will walk." I'm laying at my mother. She's gasping and breathing with the eyes open. Naturally, I start panicking and like banging, not hard, on her chest. "Mom, mom, mom." And this lady's saying, "She will soon be walking. She will soon be walking." I said, "You're a murderer. You're not." I told this woman that. And I guess, well, shortly after that, she was gone. And it has affected me.
Wow, that's messed up.
I got this
gaslighting her.
She's singing a song like they're going to go for a walk where? You know, you say that to a daughter. And I came in because this was a 24-hour they put her at. But remember, I was not in charge. and I had no legal say in anything. You don't.
Did you
If
witness a
someone else
murder?
had.
Did you
What?
witness your mother's murder?
Well,
Did you witness your mother's
she
murder?
gave her the injection, and when she was giving her that last injection, and my mother was like bouncing, like a really horrible, like she couldn't breathe. She was in, it was horrendous with the eyes,
Oh
and
my
I'm
God.
shutting her eyes, and they're popping open. This is what I have in my memory bank all alone. And then I had to run out for air, and I got in my car and I sped away. Why did I do that? And then only to find 20 minutes later, she was gone.
What? Oh
And
wow. And by the the word you used at last, injection, is that referring to what I think it is? Just yes
yes,
or no? Okay, that's what I thought.
yes. I'm trying to be careful what I say
No, you're
on your
good. You're
radio
good.
show.
I think that's a good one. I think it's an acceptable one. Just yeah.
Well, I did witness it. It's not a hearsay. I witnessed it
Oh
with
no,
my
I
eyes,
believe
even
it.
though they could say.
I believe
But
it. When
there
my
was a
mom
last one.
collapsed, she was shaking too, had
What?
those like symptoms.
Yeah, she was shaking because she got a specialty. She got something special. That's all I'll say.
And it's so wrong what these
Something,
bastards have done. It's so evil
you
on so
know.
many levels.
I mean, you know, if it's, in other words, they had no more use. At least I could say for my mother. They let her deteriorate. She was walking. She was this. She had issues, but they're not going to care or love you know, when you have other family members, and I'm trying to be careful what I say, everyone looks at it differently. Even in the other families I've mentioned to you or I've heard about, everyone says, well, they're this age, they're 78, they're 80, they're 70, they're 72, 65, 45, they have this wrong, that wrong. Clock, that's where they should go. I mean, in one family, and all the siblings never speak because none of them are in agreement what's being happened with mom and dad or the children. Now, a lot of people who lose their children, they never get to see their children because one spouse or whatever person talks bad about the other, which is not healthy. You shouldn't do that. The children badmouth them against the other
No,
parent
you shouldn't.
because it messes up their mind. You know, your mother, your father was this or that, this or that. You know, children are like little sponges. They absorb it. And then it's going to affect them, and it's not fair. So if they want to do their job, these agencies, that's what they should do. They should help, see what they could do to mend these families, to make them whole, to be the children with the parents or the right parent or whatever avenues, not just take them somewhere away, because it does affect the children, whether they're in the bad home or in a bad foster. More than likely, they're not going to get in a good home. That's just what I've seen. And I'm bouncing around between mixing the elderly and the children. And then it's just, if you've seen it and you've been in it, and I've seen so much of it, it's like I can't believe it. Anyone have anything to add into this conversation here?
Yeah, I always knew the corruption was bad, but until I started looking into
Huh?
these subjects the last couple of years, I had no
Yeah.
idea how bad it really was. But it's way worse than we imagined.
Right. And like when my dad, when he was in hospice, he was home, and they were waiting on a liver transplant. Somehow someone talked my mother hospice into not giving him the liver transplant. Okay, he was on the list. He played golf with some people to do whatever, yada yada yada, and they decided, hospice comes in and decides, no, you're still a young woman, you could meet men and everything. My mother didn't want another man. She loved my father. They were childhood sweethearts, and it had its ups and downs like any marriages. She loved him, but they convinced her to put him on hospice. And so she did. And then after he was put, because he didn't have anything wrong mentally, he had all his faculties there, they convinced her that she'll meet and she should date, she's pretty and this and that, and I kept saying, Mom, don't. So she banned me from the house because I was saying, Mom, don't, he doesn't need to be on that.
Mhm.
And no, they said they put him on it, and sure enough, it was all they did was rub his lips with ice for 2 weeks. I couldn't take it. And then when they called me, I got to say goodbye to him in a body bag.
That's so
So-
tragic. That's so messed up.
Taking him away when I got there, and
Oh,
that's when it's horrifying.
oh, I'm so sorry, Faith. These are details I really did not understand or know about your family structure.
Well,
How
I
things
try
were
not to talk.
involved.
No one really cares.
Well,
we care.
I mean,
We
not
care.
saying you guys,
Yeah, I know,
because
but
you've
we do
been
care.
through it.
Those of us that
people-
have, and more people need empathy, and you
Well-
stop being apathetic, because that's part of the problem why we've got to this place, folks. In defending each
Exactly.
other, we will remain free.
Exactly.
Right.
And I have to say this too. I'm convinced after having this experience, as I believe God called me to this, that there are people in this group, not our group here, but people who advocate for the elderly and for children, yet they have their own agenda. They're not team players. They just are there for themselves, and it's almost like a power trip. And I've had this
That's right.
encounter recently with 2 or 3 people, and it's very negative. And I'm going to talk about this because I think it's important. I mean, the AOA, the ANC has come about because of a lot of things that have happened wrong to society. And fortunately for me, I was able to identify it and put it into a format so we could understand better how to combat it. But at the same token, people who come into this, at least those people who have addressed themselves to me personally, they say one thing and do another. And so what we need is consistency, teamwork, and the thing that I really appreciate about you, Faith, is you're a team player, has always been, and I believe you are too, Dottie. And certainly Stephen is, and this is what we require. We need team players.
We do.
It's not me or you. It's we the people.
Yep. And this isn't about us, folks. This is about the true victims of this corruption, which is the kids and the elderly, folks. Period.
Well, that's what we're trying to get. How I met Dennis, one of the ways I met him is when this situation happened, and that's how we met, through talking about what's going on with these things in social ills. I have to say that social ills of society. This is a destruction family unit. Like Dennis says, if you're not fighting for your family, who are you working for? You have to have a family unit, family structure, family strength. It used to be a long time ago, your family would be around the corner, and everyone, it seemed like they were close. Now it seems like everyone, I don't know, is disconnected, or maybe I'm disconnected. I don't know. But that's how it seems. And like Dennis touched on other issues he's touched on in a lot of some of his books I've read, like his the Ball Doctrine, which I've read, and I have he has a Fair Deal. He has many books touching on these things, One Nation. I can't even think of all enough. And he touches on all these subjects, his biography and the champ and on and on. I mean, Dennis must have like 70,000 books out now. I'm just teasing, but he has 70 million books. And no, he has a lot of books. And I would just review them, and American 2000, and just have little conversations and he touched on things that were true to the family, and I do believe the family, and like I believe what Dottie said, and he has his Pam, another nice lady, is people and connections that all, Steve, you now that I've talked to, that all have this common denominator, that they all see there's a family breakdown. The structure of the family is breaking down. That's how I just see it, and I feel everyone on this phone line feels the same way, I guess, or we wouldn't be on this conversation.
You're right.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Faith. Go ahead, Dan.
Yes. I want to say this before we close, that I am going to New York. I'm going to the United Nations with these concerns that we're talking about. It's absolutely necessary. Like I said, I talked to the higher ups today in Washington, D.C., Mr. Bost and Mr. I forget the senator's name, Durbin, thank you, and also Senator Duckworth, the lady. I told them I'm concerned about China building a military base 90 miles off here in Florida, where I'm at and Faith is at.
That's what I heard.
Right. President
It's going to be the Cuban Missile Crisis all over again.
Exactly. Yeah. I wrote a letter to Mr. Biden about it. I got a letter back. It really didn't address it, but I am addressing it because I think it's that important. The Chinese are buying up our land. There's so many indicators that I'm identifying here where I believe they want to take us over. I look at this Bill Ayers out of Chicago. He was with the Weathermen during the 60s and 70s. He actually killed some police officers. He was never prosecuted for that. He should have been executed. Instead, they gave him a professorship at the University of Illinois, he and his wife both. I believe he also schooled Barack Obama in his philosophy. And I believe that the things that they want to see happen in this country, when Obama was elected president in 2008, he talked about the transformation of America. Well, you can see how this country has slid. And that's why, if you recall, when I had today's video from the White House, I spoke specifically about the things that he has done or not done that has put us in this position. Whether Biden is the president, now Trump, he had his things and I tried to help him. But the thing about it is, since Barack Obama, America has declined. It has not gotten better. Trump did do some good things, I will say that. But when we get down and dirty here with the real issues, nobody wants to talk about it, not even Governor DeSantis. We cannot continue down this path that we are in. We are sliding down the rabbit hole. And this has got to stop. And we, the people, have got to stop it. We've got to get educated, move it forward. And today I'm working on an airplane to do that. And I anticipate that will happen. As I've said before, the billionaires and the millionaires are going to lose their property to collectivism and statism if things do not change. That's my opinion. And so they need to fund candidates who will fight for them to keep America strong and to restore our culture back to the we, us, and our, from the me, my, and my narcissism that has been allowed to grow. I'll be 72 years old this month. I have never witnessed anything more destructive than what I'm witnessing right now, and it could only get worse. And I don't mean to be negative or a pessimist, but I am concerned. And I say that with the attitude.
Well, we should be.
Well, we should be, because it's our freedom, our rights, the military who have died for this, the people who thought enough about it.
Yes, the VA, the vets, them, how they're being treated.
Exactly. I mean, we've got combat veterans on the streets where they're housing illegal aliens coming over the border. These are the things that really are disgusting. And the fact that we don't have living wage jobs in this country, and some people are having to work many minimum wage jobs, and plus there's government assistance just to survive, if that.
Exactly.
So
Very true. I agree with you.
yeah, there you
know,
go.
with the inflation just the
Amen.
last few months, we've been barely scraping by, financially, because everything started to cost so much. And then with the insurance going through the roof, and oh my God, it's just been barely like, we had a little leeway, like in the last several years, we've had a little leeway every month, but now it's to a point where we're having a budget cut costs just to stay afloat.
Well, I've lost weight because of the inflation. I'm back to a size 3 again because I can't afford my food anymore. You go into a food place, it's like ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it's insane, the prices.
It's just insane. They're taking advantage of the people because now we're importing everything. Remember, we used to export. We're having to go on our knees to other countries now for different things that we used to provide within our country. That, like Dennis pointed out,
yep.
China, I believe they are. I know there's different maps. I read maps of where they are taking over the food, having little bases of army base. Like Dennis said, this is not something that we're just saying just to hear ourselves speak on the radio. It's people
been
research
proven.
and read. Yes.
It's been proven. Let's just look at the laptop material that's come out with the influence peddling. And we have we're going to actually be covering the laptop report by Marco Polo Research Group, which is the same report that the House got their information from. So yeah, we're going to be I'm working on it's going to be a big article because there's like 54 business crimes, but we're going to be covering that soon. And then there's a lot of evidence.
Oh, wow.
So we have the proof, absolute proof.
Good.
So if anybody wants to know what's coming up probably down the pipeline for the House, what they're going to be bringing forward, check out our coverage on this because we're going to be going over pretty much the whole thing.
Wow, I'm interested.
Well, listen, Faye, thank you for
having me.
You bet, and I appreciate your testimony. When we're on the stage, we want your testimony again at the rallies. We're looking forward to you. We've got a bullhorn for you. And we know you don't stop, and praise God for you.
Thank you. And it was nice being on the show and speaking with Dottie and Steve. Thank you very much. And everyone have a really blessed evening.
Yes.
And I'll sign off. God
Absolutely.
bless America.
God bless.
So,
thank you for jumping on with us, Faith, and telling your story. We really appreciate it. All right. Shall we play our outro then and wrap it up?
Yes.